it was the summer of 2022, countries were still recording cases of the Wuhan virus, but they had a new problem, an Mpox outbreak. The World Health Organization called it a public health emergency. There was panic. Nearly 100,000 people were infected, so the West jumped into action. People were tested, arrivals were screened, vaccines were administered, and the reaction was swift. Soon, Mpox became a thing of the past. By 2023, the World Health Organization said the emergency was over. But was it really? The West may have stamped out the virus, but it was still prevalent in Africa, and 2 years later, we have a similar situation. Mpox is spreading again. It never really stopped in Africa, and now it is across the globe. Today, the Philippines recorded its first Mpox case. It was a 33-year-old man, and here is the catch. This man has no history of foreign travel, which means just one thing. The virus already exists in the country, and the Philippines is not alone. Sweden detected its first case recently. Pakistan has recorded 3 cases.
हॉस्पिटल में हमने 7 बेड इधर इसके लिए आइसोलेट की है, पूरा वार्ड है। इसमें ऑक्सीजन कंसंट्रेटर्स, ऑक्सीजन, बाकी जो इमरजेंसी मेडिसिन होती है, आईवी फ्लूइड्स, कैनुलास, एंटीबायोटिक्स, एंटीपायरेटिक्स, जो इन मरीज़ों को चाहिए होगी, वो सब अवेलेबल है। इंशाल्लाह अभी तक तो कोई केस इधर नहीं आया। अगर अभी गया तो कोई इशू नहीं है, हमारे पास सारे अरेंजमेंट्स पूरे हैं।
Pakistan is monitoring its arrivals, so is China. It is screening travelers, which brings us to India. Are we at risk? Until now, no Mpox cases have been detected in India. The Prime Minister himself is said to be monitoring the situation. The Health Ministry says the risk is low, but it's still keeping a tab on all travelers. So to sum it up, Mpox on the rise, cases across the globe, countries on high alert, the WHO sounding an alarm. Since January, nearly 19,000 cases have been recorded. There have been more than 540 deaths. Is this another pandemic in the making, or do we have nothing to worry about? Well, let's look at the disease first. What is Mpox? Mpox was first discovered in 1958 in a colony of monkeys. That's where it got its first name, Monkeypox, Mpox. In 1970, the first human case was detected in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The patient was an infant. Now, this virus is zoonotic, meaning it spreads from infected animals to people. The symptoms include fever, muscle ache, and large boil-like skin lesions. In fact, it's the most obvious sign of Mpox. And how does it spread? It's usually through close contact. If you're too close to an infected person or have skin-to-skin contact, chances are you will get it. But is it deadly? Well, there are 2 subtypes to this virus, clade 1 and clade 2. In the 2022 outbreak was led by clade 2, which is less severe. The infection is usually mild. You recover in 2 to 4 weeks. But this time, it's the clade 1 variant, which is deadlier. Plus, there's also a mutation, clade 1b. It leads to death in 4% of all cases. Which brings us to the cure. How do you treat Mpox? There are no antiviral drugs. But we do have vaccines. The most common is the Bavarian Nordic's 2-dose vaccine. It is authorized for use against Mpox. Plus, there's ACAM 2000. It's a smallpox vaccine, but it is used as a cross shot, meaning it works for Mpox too. Now, countries already stockpile ACAM 2000 for national security. You see, we eradicated smallpox in 1980. The world eradicated it. But if it ever resurfaces, the vaccine can be used, which is why countries store it. And not just this one. Nations usually stockpile all kinds of smallpox shots. Most of these can be used against Mpox. But here's the problem. None of these vaccines is in Africa.
Would not recommend a general vaccination campaign for the general population or at-risk populations at this stage. It is also clear that the vaccines that are available globally are urgently needed in Africa, are urgently needed in regions where the virus currently is spreading, and there is a severe shortage of vaccines.
Mpox broke out in Africa. It's an endemic in the continent. The DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, has recorded more than 15,000 cases. The virus spread to Burundi, Cameroon, Congo, Rwanda, South Africa, Kenya, and Uganda. So it's all over the continent. Yes, yet they don't have the vaccines. And this is not the first time that Africa has been left out. In By 2022, you would remember, all wealthy nations had Wuhan virus vaccines. Half of the world's population had been vaccinated, but Africa was left behind. Only 15% Africans were vaccinated. 2 years on, we haven't learned our lesson clearly. Mpox is not too contagious. We have the vaccines. It's a disease that can be easily controlled. It should have been contained with regular testing and vaccination. Yet, the world botched up. To avoid a repeat, the West must stop hoarding vaccines. Until Africa gets them, the world will always be at risk. No one's safe until everyone's safe. We learned this the hard way during the pandemic. It's time to put that in practice.
Across continents, one powerful news source.
Bringing you diverse perspectives on the issues that matter.
We go beyond the boundaries to give you that little extra about every sporting moment.
So thank you for making Firstpost 5 million strong. We're counting on your support, and you can trust us to bring you the news unfiltered and unvarnished.
Climate change is on our doorstep. It's time for a revolution to take root. And it starts with 1.4 billion Indians. It starts with one tree for humanity, one tree for Mother Earth, one tree for our future. Project One Tree, a News 18 network initiative.
On the show today, the T20 World Cup bandwagon fans moved across to the West Indies. What can you expect from this?
Hello, I'm Alison Green, coming to you from Durban, South Africa. Today we have a special show.
Start with a report on India's shifting nuclear posture. The first time since India officially became a nuclear power.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C.